Christopher Nolan is one of my favorite directors, and a movie of his that I can watch over and over again despite its head-scratching climax is Interstellar. It has everything from breathtaking visuals and a beautiful soundtrack to a well-paced story, but there is one more thing that makes it stand out from his usual filmography. That thing is the main character and his emotional journey. In most of his movies like Inception, Oppenheimer, and even the Dark Knight trilogy, there are satisfying payoffs for each of the characters by the end. Dom from Inception finally gets over the guilt of his wife's death. Batman saves the city from terrorists. And Oppenheimer wins the court case against Strauss. In Interstellar, the big payoff was Cooper finally reuniting with his daughter. But despite it being a satisfying interaction initially, there was so much lost there. Throughout the whole movie, Cooper is a very active character who keeps making choices that has massive ramifications in the future of the story. He chose to follow the coordinates to NASA's location, even though he didn't know it was NASA at the moment. He chose to become a pilot for their mission to other planets, searching for another Earth. Even after finding out that he's been lied to, he still chose to sacrifice himself so that the mission was completed. This is what makes Cooper such an engaging and memorable character. Out of everyone in Nolan's filmography, Cooper is also arguably his most tragic character, other than Leonard from Memento maybe. Each choice he made had both good and bad outcomes. Him following the coordinates early on meant to go to an unknown place, and God knows how well Americans take to trespassing. Yet, despite when he thinks he's been caught, he says the right things and behaves in a non-violent manner in order to de-escalate the situation. This overly curious and bold nature of his, along with his past as a pilot and quick thinking, makes him a good choice for NASA's mission. His next choice, however, is far more emotionally taxing, as he has to choose between staying with his family and perishing with them in years to come, or going to different planets hoping to find a suitable one so that humanity on Earth could be saved from a grim future. Even though the mission didn't guarantee success, it was still their last chance, and so he took it. But by making this choice, he abandoned his family. Whether he wanted them to feel that way or not, that's how they would interpret it.
His dad couldn't do it.
Dad didn't even try! Dad just abandoned us! He left us here to die.
Despite all the wormholes, black holes, and some truly brain-melting science, at its core, underneath all that, this movie is about the bond between a father and his children, and the choices he has to make that impact their relationship. The whole storyline actually doubles as a giant intergalactic twist on one of the oldest philosophical questions ever, what we know as the trolley problem. It's a classic moral dilemma, one you've all probably heard of in philosophy class, or in my case, YouTube. The basic trolley problem goes this way. Imagine you're standing next to a lever on train tracks. A runaway trolley, like a small train, is coming and will hit 5 people if it keeps going. If you pull the lever, the trolley will change tracks and only hit 1 person instead. So you pull the lever to save 5 people but hurt 1. In this case, that 1 person is Cooper's whole family, while the 5 people are literally all of humanity. And Nolan makes us feel every bit of this choice.
Don't make me leave like this. Come on, Murph. Don't make me leave like this, Murph. Hey, I love you forever. You hear me? I love you forever, and I'm coming back.
That scene between Coop and Murph, man, it hits hard. You can see both Murph's hurt and betrayal and Cooper's heartbreak. It's not a clear heroic moment. It's messy. It's painful. It changes everything for Murph. Now, as Murph grows up, her relationship with Cooper goes from deep love to bitterness to complete emotional distance. She feels abandoned, rejected, and it's heartbreaking.
Pray that Daddy comes to save us.
Dad's not coming back. He never was coming back.
Interstellar further explores this huge dilemma and digs into the consequences by adding an element of time dilation into it.
I mean, by the time I get back, we might even be the same age.
This concept of time dilation makes Interstellar a time travel story of sorts, but without any superheroes or even an actual time machine.
They're not beings, they're us.
Cooper, people couldn't build this.
No, not yet. But one day, a civilization that's evolved past the 4 dimensions we know.
Due to circumstances, Cooper fails to keep his promise, and as a result, his daughter is further distanced from him, both physically and emotionally.
You once told me that when you came back we might be the same age. And today I'm the age you were when you left. So it'd be a real good time for you to come back.
The time travel element also brings in a paradox with it, and I'm sorry, but I have to go on a bit of a tangent regarding it all. So if you want to listen to my thoughts on just the characters, skip to this time, okay? So we already discussed the trolley problem, but let's also add in an example of a time travel paradox. Imagine you build a time machine and decide to go back in time to visit your grandfather when he was young, before he had any kids. Let's say something happens, for example, an accident or a decision that prevents your grandfather from ever meeting your grandmother. Now, here's the paradox. If your grandfather never meets your grandmother, then his child and your parent is never born. And if your parent isn't born, then you aren't born either. But if you're not born, how can you go back in time to cause this change? So this creates a confusing loop. You went back in time and accidentally prevented your own birth. But if you were never born, you wouldn't have been able to go back in time in the first place. This is called a paradox because both things, you being born and not being born, cannot be true at the same time. In time travel stories, the grandfather paradox is one way to show how changing something in the past can mess up things in the future in a way that doesn't quite make sense. Only in this movie, mixing the trolley problem with this paradox creates a loop that does make sense. Now stay with me because I'm about to talk about the climax and what I think happened. Once Cooper has fallen into the tesseract inside the black hole, he contacts Murph and sends her the coordinates to both NASA's location and, more importantly, the quantum data for gravity using the TARS robot. Then Murph uses those coordinates and data to save humanity. Due to the time dilation, Cooper was in the black hole for what felt to him a few minutes, but was decades on Earth, which was enough time for them to go back inside that same black hole and save Cooper. Without him sending the coordinates to NASA's location, he wouldn't have gone there, and hence he wouldn't be in the tesseract in the first place to then send the quantum data, which would mean the present time humanity is doomed, and hence the future beings known as they would not exist either and won't be able to create this third-dimensional tesseract within their advanced fifth-dimension reality for Cooper. I'm pretty sure this all sounds confusing as hell, so let me simplify it this way. In the movie, they had this line.
Time is relative. It can't run backwards. It just can't. Right? The only thing that can move across dimensions like time is gravity.
And since they were able to use his quantum data to harness gravity and manipulate it by the end of the movie, in the future, it's possible that they were also able to figure out how to manipulate time itself, as it would be the next challenge in science. And once they managed to do that, all they had to do was create the tesseract with Murph's memories, which was probably pre-recorded during the time when she was still alive. At that point, in the distant future, with the ability to harness gravity and manipulate time, creating a different dimension tesseract with one of the founders' recorded memories so that they can help each other exist within this time loop shouldn't be too far off on their to-do list.
You've seen that time is represented here as a physical dimension.
Gravity can cross the dimensions, including time. Gravity to send a message.
Affirmative.
Don't you get it yet, TARS? I brought myself here. We're here to communicate with the three-dimensional world. We're the bridge.
Anyway, sorry for the little tangent about that climax. Once I start theorizing, it's a bit hard to stop without letting it all out. So let's get back to the father-daughter aspect of the story. This time, let's discuss the ending, which properly showcases the true consequence of Cooper's decisions in the long run. He saved the world, but then lost the person who was his world. By the time they reunite, it has only been a few days at max for Cooper, but for Murph, it has been decades. Over half a century even. Murph is now older than even Cooper's father ever got to be. She has had way more experience in life, love, and loss, all of which she learned from her new family. Cooper missed seeing his daughter grow old. He missed his first grandchild's birthday, and even his great-grandchild's. He is only family in name. To the rest, he might as well be a stranger. The only person he knows, or at least knew, is Murph, and even she is on her deathbed.
I knew you'd come back because my dad promised me.
This is by far one of the most tragic moments in the movie for me, maybe even more so than the quick video recap Cooper sat through earlier. In this scene, when Murph says,
No parent should have to watch their own child die.
It indicates that Murph has sat through such a tragedy and knows how it felt. No matter who you ask, I am willing to bet that most people would claim losing a child to be just as bad, if not much worse, than losing a parent, especially if you lost a parent in your early teens. For Murph, at this point, she has spent more time and has a bigger bond with her newer family than she has ever had with her dad, so her wanting to have her children and grandchildren by her side in her last moments makes sense to me.
I have my kids here for me now. You go.
She knows that her dad, as much as he loves her, is simply too late. That bond between them, while not completely broken, is replaced. For Cooper, however, that bond is still there. Because remember, it's only been a few days since he left his little girl home. So this is not something he could ever prepare for, and Murph knows it. His little girl is long gone, and the one in front of him has her own support system. This new family of hers will accept Cooper in their lives, no doubt. But does Cooper even want that? To him, they are all strangers who just happen to share his DNA. So the fact that he then leaves to find Amelia, who is literally the only person left who knows how he feels, makes it a fitting end.
She's out there, setting up camp, alone in a strange galaxy.
At this point, he has no one, and this is why I think Cooper is arguably the most tragic character in Christopher Nolan's filmography, other than Leonard maybe. And all this is due to the choices he made. It was the right choice too, as he saved so many, but actions have consequences, and this was his. By the way, I have discussed Leonard's character in detail in my Memento vs. Irreversible video, so check it out after this video if you're interested. Same goes for the perfect depiction of mental illness video, where I talk about both Leonard's condition in Memento and Anthony's condition in The Father.
I'll put it on the list.
Anyway, that's it for now. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and if you want to see more video essays, subscribe with the notification bell on. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.